is.
Perfect.
It should be recording now. I
There we
think
go.
it should be recording.
Oh, yeah, it's been one of those weeks where there's been a lot going on. I'm currently in my housemate's
It's,
room.
oh, how comes? How comes? How
My
comes it
boyfriend is
in the?
working in my room, and
Oh,
so this
okay.
is the only other room in the house.
Oh my God! Wow. Okay.
The only other
Is it?
room.
Is there no like no is it there like another spare room or in the
No, there's the
house?
bathroom and the kitchen, and the kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean nobody wants to do a Zoom call in the bathroom, and the kitchen you can fit one person in.
One
So
person.
yeah, well, I mean, my housemate is very slim, so she could be stood at the counter and I could scoot past her. But two fully like grown adults. I mean, she's taller than me, but she's slim,
Yeah.
so scoot
Yeah.
past each other. But two fully grown
Ah.
adults couldn't get past each other in the kitchen. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay. That's okay then.
yeah.
So you are they okay with you taking up their room for like an hour or so?
She's at work.
Oh, she's at work then.
Yeah,
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. That's not a problem. That's not
she'll
a
watch
problem
this and
too.
go, "Hang on, my room."
I know. That's okay. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. So how do you find this year so far? Is it good with I think because it seems like last time we spoke and now there's a lot of things that have happened. So and I think there's a smile coming back on people's faces of how things can be like towards the end of the year.
Yeah,
I think as
absolutely.
well.
I think
Yeah.
definitely with the announcement and then the good weather, I think there's been a sort of a resurgence of light, hope, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. You
Yes.
know, people are like, oh, thank goodness, like we're starting to see some improvements and stuff like that. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that things are looking on up. But again, everyone's sort of no one's holding their breath because obviously we have no idea what's going to happen. And considering
Yeah.
how the government have dealt with the pandemic so far, I don't think anybody should be believing what the government is saying. Just going, oh, okay, if that's what you're saying, that's the current guidelines. That's as far as really we should be
Yeah.
acknowledging what the government is saying.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking the whole time that they were stating all the dates and everything
Mm.
because I won't believe it until I see people actually out and about and are
Yeah.
sort of free to have a coffee or to sit on on a park bench with a friend.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
just yeah, I'm just gonna wait and see. I'm gonna wait and see, and slowly these things might come to pass. Yeah,
Yeah.
slowly
Yeah,
might.
absolutely. It's one of those where you just got to wait and see, but I think it's going to be fraught with difficulty. But I'm like anything, you've just got to always try and find the bit that helps you the most out of the situation. And you've just got to find your way around it. I've
Of
got to find my
course,
way around it.
of course. And do you think do you see sort of your sort of art being seen to more people online or is the future really people sitting at home and just seeing exhibitions of artwork
Mm.
online
Um,
or
I think that. before the pandemic, I think people were very much, well, there's got to be some form of online visibility for your work, just for people that, can't make it to your shows, that want to show support, that are in different countries, the possibility of people in different countries seeing your artwork or you getting opportunities elsewhere. That's always been very important, I think, especially with sort of a modernizing world. But now with the pandemic, obviously there have been online exhibitions. I mean, I've organized online exhibitions, and we've had our most successful exhibition yet. I've sold the most paintings out, since more than doubled what we sold the previous year. So I think in a lot of ways it's very positive. But what it's also done is meant that everyone who actively does go out and seek art and goes to see it, I think we're now all desperate to go and see art. I can't wait to go to galleries. So I think it's done a bit of both. It's shown that the capabilities of having exhibitions online, but it's also meant that there are so many people dying to see artwork and see it in person. Like I just walk through Sainsbury's looking at stuff as if I'm going around an art gallery, just because it keeps my mind occupied.
That's so cool. That's so cool. It's like with like now there's this whole thing with doing online classes through the art schools, and I think there's been a big learning curve of trying to teach a class that you would teach in real life online. And I think the sort of
absolutely.
it's been
It's showing people their abilities and stretching their capabilities as well.
yeah, of course, and I think it is a good thing to teach people online, but I think there's something that's not quite there when you are in the room with a naked figure and you are asked to draw a 5-minute pose or asked to walk around the subject to get a good angle or something. So those sort of things that people will slowly start to they will slowly start to feel that they can do that again once things open up again as well. Yeah,
absolutely.
yes,
It'll be a great help for, I mean, there are just certain things that you just can't do online to the
yeah,
ability that you could do
no,
in person. And definitely life modeling is one of those. It's really,
it,
in person thing.
it
Simple as
is,
that.
it is, it is. Yeah, it's like as well. Like, how do you feel about even before the pandemic happened? How did you discover how to pose?
Um,
Is it through references or old masters painters, or you just did they?
yeah. So I've always loved nudes and nude paintings. So I've always seen, very classical examples of nude posing, sort of very
Yeah,
romanticized, whimsical, very
yeah,
submissive, I guess is the word, poses,
yeah,
sort of reclining, standing. And then that context from actual life classes is quite different, because again, a lot of the poses are standing. There won't necessarily be things to sit on, lean on, or props. So then you really have to rely on just you and your body. And then all of a sudden I'm going, oh my goodness, I've got to think of 10 different things to do with my arms. So then you
yes,
go and you start. So I did life drawing classes. So I started trying to observe the models and
Yeah.
seeing what
Yeah.
they did successfully, and then trying to create this Rolodex of different poses that I sort of always do because I know they're successful. So I
Okay.
still have moments where I have no idea what to do with my body, so I just start moving and then going, oh, okay, this one works.
Yeah.
um
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
That's
um
interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. Because
yeah, how about
like
you?
me.
From so long ago, can you still
Yeah.
remember?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I can. Yeah. Because like I don't like to just take a pose from a painting and do that poses,
Mm.
and I still like to develop a pose so from scratch. So I don't like I don't like to have the pose done in my head the day before, and I just like to go into the live drawing class and to discover the pose in the moment as well.
Yeah.
And I've always been comfortable like creating a pose that fits me, that fits my shape and my build. And of course, I'm not like the classical dancer build where there's long and the very slim and slender, because that isn't me. So
Yeah.
I sort of know the sort of angles that accentuate my build,
Mm.
like stretching out and stuff, or doing
Mm.
stuff that's really sort of out there, but it's really expanding myself and
Mm.
not always thinking of just closing myself in. So I sort of like I find a pose that really accentuates m- my sort of abilities to
Yeah.
hold long-standing poses for like like an hour or for half day or the
Mm.
whole day a lot of
It's
the
almost
time.
like choosing the perfect outfit to wear. You're deciding on what accentuates what you want to accentuate, what hides what you want to hide, and you're comfortable whilst wearing it, sort of thing.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
weighing up all of the options.
yeah. Because I know like even small little things like hands. I find hands very like interesting. So if I do a pose that shows off like the hands from certain angles, like even something like this is interesting to draw. But it I sort of I base what I do on the actual class. So if the class has done a lot of live drawing, then they
Mm.
would know how to attempt to draw the hand like this or something like that, like the foreshortening. And I'm always thinking of that. I'm thinking of how to pose in a way that they can learn from the
Mm.
actual like the actual pose, and to really have the the artist who's teaching them show them what to look for.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. That's
Yeah,
really interesting.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And how do you like the the deal with conflict with what you see yourself doing and what an artist has? Is there any conflict there?
Um, so I think it's important as a model to
Yeah,
just importantly have a boundary. So you know what you're capable of, you know what you want to do, and you know what you don't want to do. So when
yes,
you know
yeah,
what you don't want to do, there's always a reason.
yes,
The artist has no right to have to know what the reason is. It's
true.
like consent. You say no, but it's important to have that communication prior to the either the event or the session. as you know, but that's if that conversation is needed, because if it's a photography shoot and you say, and you're not comfortable with photos, then you're not going to go and do it. You're not going to arrive and say, oh,
No,
actually,
no,
I'm
you're
not
not gonna
comfortable
do
with
it.
having photographs being taken. So there's always like boundaries and levels and things that you want to do.
Of
But it's
course.
important to, even before you say, no, I don't want to do this, no, I don't want to do that, you want to really understand their vision and what they want. Because if they start talking about, okay, I want you to be posing and I want you to stand there with this prop and this prop, if it's something that you don't want to pose with, then of course you say
Yeah,
that you don't want to,
of
or
course.
if there's a problem. But you know, if they talk about their sort of why they're doing it, what they want to do, it gives you a good idea of whether you're going to be comfortable doing it or not. And if you are
Of
comfortable
course.
with it, it's absolutely fine. You turn up and it turns out to not be the right thing, then you've got to know that you're strong enough to be able to communicate actually that you're not comfortable with certain things, which is
Yeah,
difficult. You really have to learn and put effort into saying no, almost, because it's difficult.
it's
It's,
very, very difficult to say
yeah,
no.
especially
Very
if you're being
difficult.
paid, you're on the clock, you're, maybe in somebody else's studio, you're in somebody else's house, you're in an unfamiliar environment, you might be in public, of course you don't want to cause any
Yeah,
conflicts, so you want to be as easygoing to work with as possible, because that's all you can ask for
yeah,
from the other person. But it's really important
yeah.
to just know already what is going to make you feel uncomfortable or not. I mean, it might be a completely new situation where
Of
you
course.
didn't know that you'd feel uncomfortable, or you're allowed to change your mind.
Yeah.
That's
So,
another thing. You're
so
allowed to change your
has there
mind.
been things in the past that have sort of made you uncomfortable, but you in time have become more comfortable? Is that a thing that happens, or your guard is always up if you are uncomfortable doing something like
Mm.
doing a photography shoot, or doing a some sort of pose that you feel that is very uncomfortable, or a pose that is really going to mentally challenge you? Is that
Mm.
a big issue
I think um,
sometimes?
I I think it depends on, especially the person's sort of career progression, almost, with being a life model, because you've got to think about the viability of it being an income and what percentage of income you want it to be. For me, at the start of my career, it was about subsiding my being a student. So it was cash in hand, meaning that I was able to, it was my food money. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
what I got from life modeling, I paid for food.
Yeah.
And so you balance up what you would like to do with what you sort of need to do, almost. So if I need
Yeah.
30-40 pounds a week for my food, then that's what I need to earn, not
Yeah.
necessarily meaning that I have to do something that I don't enjoy or don't want to do, but it's a job. It's
Yeah. Of course.
you
Yeah.
turn up, you get paid for it. But at the start, because I was new to being naked in front of people that I wasn't in an intimate relationship with, like that
Okay.
is,
Yeah. That's a
a
big.
line to cross. It's an interesting one, that first
Yes.
moment when you're naked in front of people that you don't know. And
Yes.
so I made a conscious decision not to accept photography roles, because obviously I was new into people seeing me naked. I was new to being a life model.
Yeah.
So I thought, if I had more control over the image of my naked body,
Yeah.
because I hadn't learned really how to do that yet, I just avoided it. So I did
Okay.
in-person things. So then all of the artwork generated wasn't an actual picture of me. It was all an interpretation of me, which I was very comfortable with.
Okay.
And I also didn't accept any dual pose
Dupe.
roles,
Okay.
just
Yes.
because I thought, let's start with me first,
Of
and
course.
then when I'm more comfortable about it, then think about introducing another
Yeah.
body, because that's a whole different dynamic. So they were
Yeah.
probably the two main things that I put aside until I was more comfortable with it. And then, I mean, I discovered that photo shoots were my favorite thing to do. I loved it
Oh.
because it meant that, because more often than not, when a drawing session is happening, there isn't a lot of conversation or communication, because while you're posing, you're not really talking. I mean, I chat,
Yeah.
I chat
Yeah.
forever, but a lot of people
Yeah. You
don't
talk a
want
lot. Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
um,
You talk a lot.
yeah. So in a photography setting, there's a lot more communication, I find, because there's a lot more, the turnover of poses and shots and trying out different things is a lot quicker. So there's more of
Yeah.
that communication, and I don't know, I really enjoy it now, but it's only because I then became comfortable enough and I started communicating with photographers, and I found somebody that I knew that I was going to be comfortable with, and they had a massive portfolio. So it wasn't
Oh,
somebody
that's good.
asking to
That's
photograph
good.
me that
That's
had
so
been
good.
yeah, exactly, because I didn't
That's
want to
good. That is
be
very.
with somebody that had only been shooting nude for a few weeks. This person had been shooting nude models for years. So
Yeah, that is very
yeah.
good. Yeah,
But
because
yeah, what
I
about
did a yeah, I did well. I yeah. Go on again.
I was going to
You
say,
did.
what about
Yeah.
you and your experience of, because yours is a lot longer than mine.
Yeah. Well, I I have worked for like for like a lot of people in the past. I've done like photo shoots whereby I've been put with like another model. I've
Mm,
organized events whereby it's me and somebody else doing group poses, and that's very interesting. And I've done it with both a male and female model, and
mm,
that's been very like very interesting
mm,
to take part in, because I find that with women that it's more the like emotional part that we have to like agree on. So are they fine doing a pose against me, or are they how can they become comfortable to create a pose with me amongst strangers in the room? It's
mm.
light.
Oh,
Yes.
you've gone dark.
Yeah. I
Ah,
think
there
it's
we
fixing
go. And there
light.
was
Yeah.
light.
And there was like, yeah,
What was
oh,
that? The day
having to,
5?
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I need to find a way that they can they can be, become comfortable like around me,
Mm,
and especially if because in the past I was doing my duo pose events, and this was about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and I would find the venue, I would book the venue, and then I would advertise the event, and then they would all come and spend the day drawing, and I would base the poses on 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 sort of two people coming together, almost like a sculpture, like almost.
that's
And
really
I
interesting.
find that's and I find that it takes certain people like a while to get very comfortable to
Mm,
to be able to feel free to just let go and just create a pose in the moment.
Mm.
And I also find that doing the same thing with men is very easy, because with men it's very simple, because this is the pose that we have to hold. It's in the moment, and that's it. And like and like and I'm always aware about, okay, what what angle is this? How are they seeing us? Am I too big or am I too small? So if I make myself big, I need to compliment the other person. So it's more of like a teamwork. It's not just me doing my thing or something. It's about me and the other person.
Mm.
So it's more about being aware of the other person as
Yeah.
well.
And does that come
Yeah.
with, I mean, I've only done one dual pose shoot, and we didn't rehearse beforehand. We just sort of got into a rhythm of posing with each other. But I guess a more successful session would be one that would be rehearsed before, or what level of
Yeah.
communication has to happen
Well,
for it to be
I
successful?
I usually like to, in the past, I usually like to have like a meeting beforehand, and then we
Mm.
would talk about the idea and the poses, and then we would rehearse the poses about like a month in advance, just to see how we are, and how we work,
Yeah.
and we would just say, okay, this pose looks okay, and then let's do something else. Okay, let's do something else. So, because I do just to get them comfortable, because it's okay doing it in like a space whereby there's nobody watching you, but doing it in front of people is a whole different experience. It's
Yeah.
not the same thing. It's not
Yeah,
the
it's
same
like a
thing at all.
performance. You have
Yeah, it
a
is a
rehearsal
performance.
beforehand, and it
Yeah,
makes it more successful.
yeah, and and in the past, I've worked with people that are they are so professional. It's the fact that
Mm.
there is this thing that, people always say, okay, they they have to be like um a partner of the model or something, or, or like a girlfriend or like a boyfriend. But in my case, I
Right.
have always found people that are just, they get very they can work with me to create something, and then as soon as it's done, it just turns off, and then they can go back to the other half or something. So they just treat it like a job. They come in, they do the job for a day, or or a few hours, and that's it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's, yeah, and that's a hard skill to maintain, to like be sort of on the go, and to just think of new poses, and to use your like imagination. And that is a big
Mm.
thing, to not to
Yeah.
just think, well, it's easy, but it's quite hard to think of things
Mm.
on the spot,
I guess
actually. Yeah, it's very hard.
it's almost like another layer on top of just on top of being a model and posing, is
Yeah,
you're being sort of an actor. Another level is conveying the emotion in your pose, but then having this other person posing with you, and you're communicating an emotion between you because you're doing the pose together. It's a
yeah,
Instead of a biography, it's a story of two people. It's,
yeah,
I don't know, it is interesting, and especially, I mean, looking at
yeah,
sculptures, looking at
yeah,
the kiss. I mean, there's this sort of energy that you see between the two posers,
yeah,
and I guess that's what you're enacting, really, is this story, because then it's unified between the two people rather than, as you said,
Yes.
just two people posing, which,
Of
some
course.
schools want. Some places want
Yes.
two people to
Yes.
pose so that students get two different examples and they can sort of pick and choose who they want to draw. Maybe they're all just drawing
Yeah.
feet or something, so they've got 4 different
Yeah.
feet to choose from. You never know, but
Yes.
it's all,
Yeah. Yes.
I think the beauty in creating your own event is that you get to create your own
Yes.
context and you get to create your own,
Yes. Yes.
this is what the session is about. And that means that you
Yes. Of
can,
course.
you can put together this session of having a story between two people posing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think that I think it's so interesting to really to know who you are before you start to pose with, in different spaces with different people in different in environments, because
That's a
in
good one. Yeah.
in today's yeah in today's world, people can like take photos, or they would stereotype you or put you in a box, or say, do you do this as well, and that may be offensive in if they say, do this sort of other work as well, and but you don't, but they
Mm.
would like often assume you do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
a lot of
assume
the
that
time.
because you're working nude, then you're a sex worker.
Yeah,
And
essentially.
and thinking about it, because I mean, I'm guessing that you're um referencing the story that I talked about the other week in the last
Yeah.
episode.
Mm.
And I've been thinking about it and thinking that it's almost certainly due to the context of nudity being in being referred to as sex. So if you're nude, well, then obviously you're having sex, because for a lot of people there isn't a context of, why would you be naked if not for having sex. Obviously there's, you have a shower, you have a bath, but these are all very
Yeah.
private things. Being nude,
Very
the
private.
context is private. So the context of sharing your nudity with people that you don't know, well, what else? You're obviously a sex worker. There's nothing wrong with being a sex worker, but it is a big difference between posing nude and being a sex worker. That's a massive difference. It's
It
a
is a big difference.
big
There's a big
difference.
difference.
And unfortunately, a few people just don't understand that line quite yet. But I think it's because modeling nude hasn't been broken in to the mainstream ideas yet. But I mean, it has because of
Yeah.
art, because obviously art is, I mean, mainstream. We all come
Yeah.
across art,
Yes.
but
Of course.
life modeling hasn't necessarily
Yeah.
been something on everyone's radar, because it's a very art school thing.
No. It's very. Yeah. It's very an art school thing, and it's so
Mm.
it's such a like a niche sort of activity almost. It's almost like
Mm.
yeah,
I,
because
I
like I
guess it
take
can be
part. Yeah.
I guess it can be um, seen as quite elitist, maybe, because it is something that isn't an opportunity for many people.
No. No.
But
No. No.
that's what
No.
we're
It's
but
not.
that's what we're trying to go against. We want it to be open for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone should have the
Yeah.
opportunity to.
Of course. Of course. Because I don't mind posing in front of strangers, or so they can get comfortable seeing the naked form. But I
Yeah.
think there's this whole thing now is that um, every time they do a show on live drawing on TV, they always have to either blur out the penis or blur out the vulva or like hide the genitals, or they are always ashamed of showing those parts. And I think the reason is because not a lot of people would understand that it's art. So there are some people that they see a naked person and they think, "Oh, that is he or she's nude. It must be some sort of some peep show. Is that the word I'm looking for? Like a peep
Yeah,
show,
it
seeing
must be
somebody
something
nude
to be
for the first
sexualized.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And
sexualized. Yeah,
that's
mm,
it's such a shame that
yeah,
nudity has got that much stigmatization for being sexual, because I mean that's what it has been for hundreds of years. Nudity is
yeah.
always associated with being like sexual, with something sexual. So I
Yes,
think
yeah,
that is the constant cycle of nudity being sexualized. And you know, the fact that people that take their clothes off, you know, it's always like, oh well, they must, you know, it must be something to do with having sex, or yeah. But I think shows like Naked Attraction are great in a way that means that being nude becomes it's a growing and growing, becoming sort of more normal to see other naked bodies.
yeah,
It's great that people are finally being able to see other bodies and going, hang on, I thought I looked strange and weird because the only other naked bodies I've seen are very scantily clad celebrities and
yeah,
Instagram models, and they're not
yeah.
real representations of people's bodies. Because if you go to
No,
a
no.
life modeling class, you're going to be looking
Mm,
at the model going, oh my goodness, it's so interesting to see a body like that that looks completely different to mine. And you know,
yeah,
it's very reassuring that all of our bodies are so sort of interesting and different. But then again, it's still reaffirming the sexualizing of a naked body, because what is it? Naked attractions, where these
yes.
bodies are, you're choosing them for their attractiveness, you're choosing
Of
them
course you are.
because you're sexually attracted to them. So it's, you know, it's pros and cons, pros
Yeah,
and cons.
it's like it's like in the art schools they have a term. It's like is about like 11 weeks long, and in that term they may only have 2 weeks of two male models for the whole term, and the rest is all females.
Mm,
So that tells you that there's still a keen interest to see the female form,
yeah.
and artists generally feel more comfortable drawing the female form. So that's why on TV they somewhat feel hesitant to show the male as it is,
Yeah.
and that is a big sort of step that they still have
Mm,
to overcome.
mm.
I
It's
think,
interesting though
yeah, because
how
in yeah,
it's interesting though how, as you're quite rightly saying, there is more of an interest in the female nude, and especially as a subject of being painted and drawn in the nude. You know, something like 80% uh, of painted nudes are female, in the big museums like MoMA, and yet something like 9% of the artists are female. And so there
wow,
is this overwhelming interest in the female nude, yet we're the subject of the most censorship on things like social media. We're always being told to
yes,
either cover up, being told to dress less provocatively, this is too explicit, this can't be on here. you know, what is the line going to be for explicit, nude? Like, what's the boundary? It's just unfortunate that even though there is this overwhelming desire for artistic representation and the subject of nudity, but there's still this massive lashback against censorship and no, this is too much, this is too explicit. So it's trying to find those mediums in which we can contextualize it in a controlled environment, which is life modeling.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes, it is. It is. It is indeed. It is. Yeah, it is. That is the p- perfect way of as well. I think it's the fact that people need to sort of advertise the form more to in order to get people's attention. I think, and is a thing that they sort of have to do to really get people's attention. So it goes all the way back, like seeing those those TV shows that have women there who have the large bust and the small waist and stuff, and they get that they sort of show other people that, oh look, see this show because we have this person on the show, and they get totally were the saying that they get sort of typecast or something as, okay, see the show to see this, and it's actual looks of the person, so and you don't actually know anything about the person in the end, and so that person becomes a sort of um voiceless individual on screen, essentially, and they can't speak for themselves, essentially.
Yeah, I think that happens across everything where things are being produced, and obviously there's a producer, a director, you know, not specifically those roles, but those sorts of people who have their own visions for the said production, or you know, whatever they're doing, their vision, they're in control of what people are saying and doing to an extent, and that's why they're sort of doctored into what their vision is. So it
Yeah,
isn't necessarily what the individual necessarily wants to portray, but it has to fall within the lines of the person producing this, whatever it is. It's you know, it has to go with their vision. It's like, you know, if you're watching Love Island and all of a sudden one of them starts
Love
talking about
Island.
something really important, that ain't going to get aired. They want people watch it for light entertainment, to laugh at people, to
Yeah,
judge
yeah.
people.
There's not.
You know, it's
Oh my
not
god,
about,
no!
you know, it's for entertainment. So it's going to be
It is.
picked and chosen what gets aired and how people are portrayed, because there's got to be the antagonist, there's got to be a protagonist, there's got to be all of these things, because as we know, it's the successful formula for entertainment. So if we know
Yeah,
that, then it's
yeah,
cookie cutter.
yeah, yeah. Of
Oh,
course,
the
of course.
fly's back
Especially,
from
have you got a
2 weeks
fly?
ago. It's still here.
Or from last time? Is
Yeah,
the fly
same
still
one.
there?
Yeah, he
What
only
the
comes out
hell?
when I go on Zoom and then goes, ha ha, ha
Honestly,
ha, look at me, look at me.
yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, swear,
Oh
swear to you,
wow,
it's the same one.
wow, wow. That is interesting. That's interesting. That's, oh my god. Oh, the same fly. Wow.
Exactly the same
So
one.
how do you? I can't believe it. Wow, 2 weeks. So how do you see things going now with being nude or being being out there? Is it a good idea, or do you care about people seeing you nude?
I think
Is it a big
it's a
thing,
big.
or you don't?
I think it's a big thing to begin with, because you sort of make
Yeah,
that choice to then put it on the beast that is social media. So there's options that you can choose, whether you want to keep the fact that you model private, so you only have
yeah,
images um, uh, on websites like Registry of Artist Models. There are other ones. There's Purple
yeah,
something that there are all these other
yeah.
websites that you can be
I
on to
know. Yeah,
get
I know. That's
yeah, exactly. And so you can have
yeah,
your
yeah.
photos on there from your portfolio, and you'll get jobs, you'll book jobs. They have job link searches where you can apply for jobs. So, there is an extent of having a successful career and not having to be completely public, because I know that there are people out there that, their families don't know that they do it, and
Yeah,
that's
of
how
course.
they want to keep it, because they might have, say, another job.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
Yeah,
but personally, I think that it was inevitably going to be a move for me to make anyway, because some of the art that I make involves nudity, and it involves me and nudity.
yes.
So
Okay. Yeah,
there was no really avoiding there being some form of nudity of me personally on the internet, because some of my art involves that. So when it came to being a life model, I
yeah,
was talking to a few of the photographers that I've been working with, a few of the life models that I've been working with, saying how much of a tool Instagram has been for their modeling. Now, there are a few things that I have thought about when it comes to putting my stuff online on Instagram. I don't It doesn't faze me that my image is there. My parents both know what I do. My family knows what I do.
yeah.
They know, because they're arty. They know exactly the context of it. They're not all of a sudden going to go around and say, no, this is wrong, this is abhorrent.
Yeah.
So that's fine. I have support in that instance, and all of my
Okay.
friends know me as their naked friend. So they're used to it. They know
Okay.
that they're going to end up with a naked photo on their feed and of me. So there's that support around me, which is, can be an unconscious
That's
support. But things like job prospects, I really want to become a teach
yes.
at some point in the future.
A
So
teacher. Okay.
yeah, so I want
Mm,
a portion of my career to be teaching. So then you've just got to think,
okay.
now I'm not going to stop myself from doing things that I'm doing now because of that, because this is what I'm doing at the moment. This is what I'm finding a success and a joy
Yeah.
in. So I'm not necessarily going to want to
Yeah.
stop it just for a job prospect in the future. But again, people will have their own personal opinions on what their career paths are. So I would think of things like, okay, if I really do get serious about teaching and I have a placement somewhere, or I start teaching in an environment, then there are certain steps that I can take, like turning my life modeling page private, so I can moderate
Yes.
who's seeing these images. So there's certain
Yeah.
steps that I can take,
Yes.
also using false names. So I use my
Yes, you
real
can.
name, but I use a shortened version of my real
Yes.
name. And I and
Okay. Okay.
so
That's good.
there are
That
certain
is
things that I
good.
do. So if
And,
you type in my full
yeah.
name, nothing mildly
Yeah.
comes up. None of my social media has my full name. None of anything,
Sure.
nothing has my full name. So if any professional is typing
Okay.
in my name, they're not even going to find my social media.
Yes.
So what I think you've done
Okay.
something
Okay.
similar as
That
well.
is.
What have you done?
Yeah. It's mostly It's mostly me, because I've done a lot of TV. people find
None
me
of
through
that's
there.
private.
I'll just accept. I just accept that it's out there, and I
Yeah.
don't really think about it too much. I don't really
Yeah.
think about it too
My
much.
junk's on channel
Yeah,
4.
because everyone, yeah, it's on Channel 4 and other places as well. And I'm nude. I used to put lots of nude, nude event photos on my website for my hen parties and stuff. I would
Yeah.
just put them up, and the
Advertising.
strange advertising, and the strange thing is, I would get more offers and more work, and I find it fascinating.
Mm.
And then all the hens are like, oh, like, wow, he posed naked, and they get so
Yeah.
excited, and that it's me, it's Matthew, like they get so happy and excited.
Yeah.
I
And I guess
just
that's quite an esteem boost as well for you to know that,
yeah,
it's fun to know that people are
it's
interested in working with you because of, it's a compliment almost that somebody coming to you and
it
going, oh
is.
yeah, I want to work with you.
Yeah,
Um,
because I'm not, of course, because like I don't say it like I don't shame persons that has to hide their face or they are
mm,
change their name. That's fine. But in my individual case, I want them to know it's me. That's
yeah.
what I'm doing. I- If you like that sort of thing, it's over here to go see it.
Mm,
I don't judge people that do it as well. That
mm,
do stuff that you think is like, oh, that's disgusting and gross. It's a industry, but I like to just say, look, it's my face, it's me. I'm not somebody that's like blocking out their eyes. There's the
yeah.
people put photos and they always black out their eyes or something or like their heads, or so
Yeah.
it's somebody else, but it's actually them. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not into that sort of, because it's me.
Yeah.
I can't hide because my
Mm,
shape and my, it's me.
yeah.
And
And
I just
it's
like
like,
to just be
I hear what you're
very,
saying with that because you really got to
yeah,
own it. I mean, I have very
yeah,
distinctive tattoos that I've designed, and nobody
yeah,
like a few of them I've designed, so nobody else has got them.
yeah,
Everyone's going to know it's
yeah.
me. So, and everyone around, and like there isn't anyone that I wouldn't want to know that it's me, and that I wouldn't know. Like, quite a few of my bosses have seen my website, like they
uh,
know.
ah,
So it's, and oh, to be fair, there is, my website does have my full name,
okay,
and
it's
you can
fine.
search me, and there does happen to be something on there, a performance of me. And the thing is, it at the first instance it's a bit like, oh god, they've seen it, and my job is in something that is not
Yeah,
modeling. They've seen me fully clothed the whole time that I've worked there, and then all of a sudden
yeah,
they're seeing me not fully clothed, and then I go, no, but I chose to put it out there. I said to myself that I'm very happy with anybody seeing it because I'm in control of the images that are being put out there. If there was any photos that were being taken from a photographer that I wouldn't be happy with, or there was something, then I would make it very
yeah,
clear that it wouldn't go out there. And there are smart things. I mean, I don't know whether we should talk about this now or whether we're going to come to
yeah,
it,
yeah, sure, yeah, yeah. Let's talk about it now.
about
Yeah,
certain things that you sort of say and do to stay within control of these images. So making sure that
yes,
you have things like, so that communication with you and the other person. So I'm talking mainly about photography because we're talking about the actual
sure, yeah, okay,
image.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, is that
Photography,
you
yeah,
have that open dialogue, that open, polite dialogue of, um, it's not just you in control of me. We're both working together on this as the model and the
yes,
photographer, and the
yeah,
images that you're taking are going to be equally shared between me and you. that you are
Yes.
accepting of anything that I say that I'm not comfortable with, whilst me trying to do my best to work to what your vision is, that I still have the discretion of saying no,
Yeah.
of saying, actually, how about this? You know, if I'm a smart model and I want to be a
Yeah.
successful model, then obviously compromises have to be made, but it takes a
Of
while
course.
to understand those compromises and to have rehearsed those compromises to then know what to
Yeah.
say and how to do it. But so
Yeah.
important, model release forms. It's a way that you can legally cover your back if something is used
Of
against
course.
your wishes.
Of
So it's
course.
something that
I
I didn't
will.
even know about at the start.
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
and
Okay.
since
I
since
once
yeah.
uh, yeah.
Oh,
Um
what were you gonna say?
I once saw yeah, I once saw a story online about this company in America that was doing a casting for some sort of adult or on like erotic shoot online,
Right.
and I think they told all the girls that it wasn't going to go on their website or be sold like around the world. That it was actually going to go to people privately
Private. Yeah.
or something, the actual content, but the photos they took was actually sold on to different companies online.
Mm,
So so they saw the actually sued the company for being that they lied to them. They
that's
actually
awful.
lied to the girls, and that's very sad. It's very,
Yeah.
it's. I think it's because if you are new and you don't understand how people can take advantage of you, you
Mm,
know, that is a that is a thing that
yeah.
will affect you like emotionally as well. And I think
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's a good
It's
yeah. It's
important.
very
It's really
yeah
important because it doesn't just affect the fact that you're already in a heightened vulnerable situation, the fact that you're naked. You're
yeah
even more vulnerable for the fact that images are being taken of your nudity. So
yeah
there's so many different levels of vulnerability, and then to be taken advantage of when you've already accepted that level of vulnerability, you've accepted the, you know, the where that image is being distributed, you're accepting that this is my boundary, that they're going to be distributed privately. You've already
yes
done all of those things, and then to be exploited on the top of that is incredibly emotionally damaging,
it is
especially for the levels of vulnerability that you've already gone through and that you are when you're naked. it's
yes
it's a you
and you're
know,
naked
not
yeah
to make
yeah
it sound really sadistic, but it's a gamble that you always take. So that's why obviously you cover yourself with certain things and you only work with certain people. So I've only ever worked with people that are approved by my modeling agency, that they've been
okay
in
that's
communication with them, and uh, you know, and that's how we came into contact. So
yes that is very true
I I haven't accepted anything through Instagram. See, that's the other thing. Even though
yes
having things like Instagram and social media are great for life models in contacting the wider artist community,
of
there
course
are certain things that you have to assess the levels of, you know, is this the right thing to do? So for example, if an artist on Instagram gets in contact with you, simple, I'm doing a big canvas, I need a nude model for it, could you come to my studio, this is
yes
how much I'm paying, those sorts of things, that
yeah yeah
if it was given to you through your artist agency, you wouldn't
Yeah.
question it because they've already been
Of course
vetted.
not. No. Yeah, of course,
Whereas
of
if it's
course.
through Instagram, you then have to go through another level of caution on
Yeah.
top of everything
Another level of
else.
caution.
It's another level of caution. So
Yes, a lot. A
it's
lot.
tricky, and it makes me think, we're putting
Yeah.
ourselves in a vulnerable
Yeah.
situation, and there are so many vulnerable situations out there, but this
So
one is
vulnerable.
incredibly
Yeah.
unique and just not talked about, not discussed.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I think there's this thing whereby, especially now in today's world, whereby people are doing this other sort of modeling online as well, that's towards the adult industry, that it, it's almost like there is this like attraction now to do things that, okay, it's they're saying work from home. How can you use this time to really capitalize on the people staying at home, and how can you make a living or make an income of just staying at home and doing something that is in your comfort zones,
Mm,
but it's not, you're not dictated to by somebody else.
right.
So you're in control of what you decide to shoot or to film yourself, or to take a photo
Mm,
of your your feet, for I don't know, your feet, for example, or or your hands or something, or your
mm,
torso. So it's just being in control of what you release or what you
yeah,
send to somebody, or yeah, being
yeah,
in control is such a big thing.
yeah,
It's such a big thing.
yeah.
Yeah, it
Being in
is.
control and
And
staying in
how
control.
do you feel like about that? About being yeah. Yeah,
um
yes. Yeah.
I just think it's really important, because even if you feel like you're in control, then you're putting off an energy
Yeah.
and an image that you are in control. Whereas if you are, theoretically, if you are
Yeah.
in control but you don't act like you're in control, they're not going to
Yeah.
think you're in control. It's all sort of psychological, but it
True.
if you start acting like it, then it will come into fruition. I don't know how you, there's a word for it, not immortalizing it,
Yeah.
but if you act like it, it will come to part, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. 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 Of course. Of course. I know what you mean. Yeah. I know what you mean as well. Yeah. That's very that's very important. I think because I like to act like I'm in control of certain situations,
Mm,
but to not take control of the relationship. So I'm a big believer on trying to build a relationship with somebody first, and then I can say the what I can do, or what needs more time to really develop
yeah.
more of a trust before we can set more dates or do more things on, for a TV show, for example, being filmed, a lot of the time being interviewed, stuff that they show, stuff that they don't show, because at the end of the day, I, I don't have any control on how they will edit me, or the stuff that they would
Mm,
show to the public, essentially.
yeah. You've just got to be consenting of what you're saying as a whole, and then
Yes.
trust that their editing represents what you're trying to put across, I guess,
Yeah.
which is difficult. It's really difficult. And, hearing how real people in these TV shows then go back to talk about their experiences. A lot of them say, oh, in the editing, they made me look like this, and this. But then it's like, but you did say those things. You did say
Yes, you
those
did say
things.
those things.
So, there's to an extent of which editing can switch up what you're saying, of course. But,
It's
you're in control of everything that you say and put out. But yeah, it's interesting. Not that I can say I've even been and done any of that. You have.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. I've done like I've done like a lot of that, but it's in the sense that because I stutter and stuff, th- they would often like to film me stuttering on purpose a lot of the time, like just for the fact that
Really?
people need to hear someone who stutters on, yeah, because yeah, on
They
purpose a lot
made
of the time,
wait, so
or
they asked you to stutter on purpose?
yeah, just on purpose, just so they will say, okay, Matthew, say this word, and then that word, I would have a block on that word, and then they would film that word, and then they would edit me struggling to say that word,
That kind of
struggling to say that word, and then that would,
it kind of
it's
shocks me,
all
but
in
doesn't
the like
surprises me.
editing. It's not no, it's not surprising. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's got to be interesting to watch essentially, because if they were to film me just being me, in their eyes, it's not really interesting enough. So they have to film parts of me that's like, okay,
Well, I think you're
he's
interesting with
stuttering.
or without the stutter.
I know, but in
Yeah.
their eyes, okay, he takes his clothes off. He's very comfortable. He does the hen parties and stuff. He gets his kit off like in front of all the hens and stuff. So in their eyes, that is interesting to like film a lot of the time. That's very like interesting to film stuff like that. And I
Yeah.
find it quite like interesting how you can shape someone just by using certain clips of them. As I
Yeah.
find that like
That's
amazing
really
actually.
interesting. And again, it's talking upon the producers and
Yeah,
their it's almost their sculpture. They haven't made the clay, the earth has
yes,
made the clay. The
yeah,
sculptor
yeah,
shapes it into what they want it to be. Oh my, see,
yes,
this is why I want to be a
yeah, of
teacher.
course. Of course,
I
yeah,
can come up with
of
these
course.
random
I
examples,
know.
but it's
Y-
very that in that you're the you have your you, and then the producers are like, nah, can we just have a little bit more of that, a little bit more of this? Could you struggle a little bit more?
Struggle, yeah, I know, but like I find it quite like interesting what people find interesting to watch or to view online or on
Yeah,
YouTube. I find stuff like that very amazing to watch because you find certain so they speak to you, but they're speaking so much high energy that people want to watch them. It's I find it very interesting.
yeah. I also think there's a level of
Yeah,
when you watch sort of the main channel things like Channel 4 and BBC,
yeah,
you're watching them probably with people, your
oh,
housemates, and
yeah, yeah,
you're watching them with your friends. Whereas when it comes
yeah,
to even clips on YouTube, it's almost more personal, because it feels like you're usually at home and you're choosing to watch it on your own. So you probably make more decisions of things that you wouldn't watch around
Yeah.
other people. So more maybe guilty pleasures. So people are watching things on YouTube that they might be slightly more embarrassed about watching, or, you know, you wouldn't, I don't know if you'd, unless you had banter with somebody, you wouldn't
Yeah.
actively choose to watch embarrassing bodies, things like that. You know, you'd watch it as a guilty pleasure because you wanted to know, but you wouldn't want that embarrassment of, say, watching it with
No.
your parents. You know, it's there are
Yeah.
certain things that you'd watch alone, or
Yeah.
certain things that you'd watch like together. And I think it's important that for things like, probably even things like naked attraction, I'm just gonna say it again, things, if you're
Negative.
watching them with a group of people, then you're able to
Yeah.
have that sort of cross communication of, well, mine don't look like that, or, oh, actually mine looks kind of like that, or, you know, there's that discussion going on. Whereas actually I think that we're a
Yeah.
bit more
Yeah.
embarrassed and we're watching things alone.
What to think? Yes, that is a big thing about it as well. I think with a group of friends, it's very interesting to see as well. Just getting your friends together
Yeah,
and seeing a show like Naked Attraction is a fun way to go
yeah.
about your like evening. I think as well, because
I guess
so
it could
it's
go in a horrible direction as well, of somebody going, oh my God, look at that. And then somebody sat there going, oh, mine looks like that.
yeah, and
and
yeah,
and their
yes,
friends
yeah.
just, you
But
know, slag them off.
yeah, that is a lot of fun. But
In
I think if you like a certain thing on the person, if you like
Yeah,
long hair, I think you would always find a match. If
yeah,
you have a distinctive type, it's so easy to find what certain people like
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
It's so easy. I think it's not that hard. I don't
Important
think.
question.
Yeah,
Would you
yeah.
go back? Would you go back on?
They asked me. I turned it down. They asked me last year.
Ah,
I said like I'm okay because I did say I did want to go on it, but I said um I wanted to be on the other side, so the person who
right.
actually
Yeah,
goes on the date. So
yeah,
it
yeah,
just
yeah,
makes life so much easier than
yeah.
spending like the whole day
In a box.
waiting and yeah,
Yeah.
and plus
Would you go
now
on?
it's so
Would you go on?
yeah.
What about the other programs that you've been on,
What the
like Undateables?
undateables? Well, if you ask me, maybe, but it's been such a long time now. It's been about 5 years or so, 5 6 years
Wow. Yeah.
since I've been on that show. It's been
Mm,
a long time, and plus it's so hard to put me in a show like that, yeah, because what I think if you think of someone who has a disability, you don't think of somebody who has a stutter. It's always someone who's in a wheelchair, or someone who has autism,
mm.
or all these things.
But don't you
But
think that that's a
yeah,
good thing, breaking the stigma of what disability looks like, and sort of being able to sort of represent more like the actual range of disabilities that there is, rather than ones that we see?
I
Not saying
think
you personally,
yeah,
that you have to
yeah,
go on as a martyr for people with
a martyr.
stutters.
No,
I represent
no,
all of the people that stutter.
all the people is that. No, I think I just think that well they have had me, and it's so hard to find somebody else who has the stutter that would agree to go on the show, or to find somebody else, because I think this thing that they always find the same sort of, of people they find every year. So it's only a different person, but they haven't found someone who has a stutter that would be comfortable going on the show again. I think it's so
Right.
hard to
Do you think that
find
that's a reason for why you choose not to go on the show? Or,
because I'm older now and I sort of know what they sort of want. I know what they sort
yeah,
of want. Yeah.
you
So
know their intentions aren't solely
yeah,
to put you with the love of your life?
not. I don't think they actually.
Give a
That's
shit?
not the first thing that they think of. I don't think. I don't think that's because I think
Yeah.
in their mind they just want to film a good show first and
Yeah.
foremost. I think I think the show comes first, and then our interests are more like
Yeah.
second or third. So that's how it is
Mm.
in TV a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
all about
Yeah.
the show and stuff as well.
Yeah. I guess
Yeah.
the whole context of TV programs is the fact that their number one priority is always to make the program. Like
Yeah.
that's just the top priority, and it has to be, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
So I think you're right
Yes.
in that you do always know on these things that it's, unfortunately it's never your top priority. Even things, even, bless him, even King Attenborough, the top
Yes.
intention isn't the wildlife, because it has to be the fact that this thing needs to be watched by as many people as it possibly can be.
Yeah.
So the production value has to be of such that its interest is over the widest span of people that it can be, because of how
Yes.
important it is.
Yes.
So even then, something so wholesome and something so important still isn't the priority of the show. Isn't the content, because
It's not.
they have to make sure that this something as important as
Yeah.
these
It's
programs
like
have to be shown.
it's like it's like anytime I get asked to go on a show, I know that I am I am a part of the minority group out there. So
Yeah,
being black and dancing, and I I am always aware of it. So even
yeah,
though sometimes they don't show my face, you know, for that reason, because I think a lot of people know who I am, but
mm,
the time that I do get that bit of screen time, a lot of people know who I am. So essentially, a lot of people, and that is, I think that is a good thing. That is a
mm,
good thing, yeah.
yeah.
But I don't use it to enforce. Okay, put more black people on TV because I'm black, and we're like, no, I don't um
Mm,
approach it like that. But it's always a good thing to see your own race
yeah,
on.
being represented.
Yeah,
Yeah,
always,
yeah, and it is
always
noticeable. You notice it. These things are so important. They're
very
really, really
important,
important.
very
And
important.
I notice, even though I'm incredibly privileged, I still notice when I'm somebody like me is represented. Somebody who
Wow.
has fun with their image, piercings, tattoos, pink hair. I notice when adverts, when women have tattoos, because that's unusual. So on a very micro
Oh,
level, just the minute level, I can only begin to understand what it's like for somebody who's an ethnic minority.
yeah,
I can only begin to understand what it's like to be able to see your likeness represented, your
yeah,
religion, ethnicity, your background, your race represented, because
yeah,
I notice those small things, but to me, it's not a defining, or it you know, it doesn't hold as much importance as, say, who I am being
Yeah.
British, but you know, my identity as such. So I really, I feel for people when they're not being represented, when they don't get to see their likeness, because it's, I mean, yeah. But
Yeah.
that's why we protest.
Yeah. So like you haven't seen someone who's from J- Japan on as a news on the news, or
Mm,
who's who's a news broadcaster, or someone
mm,
from Turkey. So I think
mm,
that thing of being diverse is so hard to really do, because in this country there's this quick sense of, okay, he's 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 from the UK, or she's from a different part of the world, but they speak with the English accent. I think the accent is such
mm.
a key point,
Yeah.
or like a key thing that you hear.
Mm.
It
Well,
it really,
accent,
yeah,
yeah,
it's such big.
accent as a thing is so loaded as it is.
Yeah,
It's like skin color.
it
It
is.
has every intention of promoting class, promoting intelligence, promote all of these different things that are so socially linked. It really, I mean, there's such an interesting thing, you know, until, you know, radio announcers, when there was no TV, they would have to speak with RP. So they would have
Oh.
to talk like this. So they were qualified enough to read the morning news. You know, they'd have to talk in a certain way to sound authoritative. So people would listen to the radio and see it as the authority. You know, when they were talking about the news, obviously you'd believe what the news had to say because they were an authority figure.
Of course,
And you
of
know, there's
course, of
certain
course.
standards. And then when the first person who didn't speak with RP was given a job on the radio, you know, it was outrage. It was like, who is this person? You know, all of these things that society has, all of these milestones, it's
Yeah,
still
yeah,
such a massive thing. And you know,
yeah.
people, you know, having, doing surveys of accents, you know, right at the bottom of the pile, bless them, the accent in Essex, the Scouser accent,
Ethics, scouts,
Birmingham
yeah.
accent. These are the accents that are, as a society, we've you know, had a poll and said that these are the accents that we deem to be, if we hear it, less intelligent, and we don't trust those accents over somebody with, say, a North London, or you know, all of these other accents. We don't trust
Yes,
them as much as these ones.
yeah, of course, of course. I find it fascinating, accents, and how you speak affects other people. So if you
Yeah.
speak in a sort of, higher, I don't want to say upper class, but a very sort of well learned way of talking,
Mm.
you are someone who's seen to have power, who is someone who commands authority, and people trust you more
Yeah.
by by how you speak. I find
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
fascinating.
Well, it's, I
Fascinating.
guess because it's so associated with education. And I mean,
Yes.
I went to a public school. There were loads of
Okay.
people there with different accents to me. There were people with quite distinctive Birmingham accents, quite, you know, different accent because of the area that I lived in.
Yeah.
And everyone called me posh.
Ah,
Everyone called me posh.
ah.
And it's because my parents talk in a certain way. meant that I spoke in a different way to quite a few of my peers, but we still had the same education, we still had the same opportunities. But obviously I went in a certain direction in my life, other people went in certain direction in theirs.
Yeah.
But it is this thing about opportunities. I mean, we had the same education, but
Yeah.
because of my family and I was brought up thinking, going, oh, you should really go to university, it will give you a better chance at getting better jobs. But necessarily some other people, their upbringing, it was like,
Yeah.
no, you're going to go to college and do something practical. And so there's no real, it's such a complex thing. And
It
it's really
is.
interesting that now that we're talking about language, then the layer on top of that is that there's a stutter. Whatever your accent is, you've got
Yes.
a stutter over the top of that. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
what people's views are towards people with disabilities like that,
Yeah.
deeming,
Uh,
they might have their
uh,
preconceived notions about
yeah.
people with stutters.
Yeah. Because I don't talk with a lot of sort of like I don't say in it or yeah or something a lot. Like
Yeah,
like in certain art schools they are so elite that they all speak in this sort of like like someone who's from like
jargon.
Eton or Oxford way of sort of very clean English way of
Yeah,
speaking, and then there's me like what the fuck? It's just
yeah,
like yeah, and that's fine. But I find it's fascinating how
yeah,
just by how you speak and how they see you affects how other people see you.
100%. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
my dad will correct my grammar and how I say things purely for the fact that he doesn't want me to have one of the accents that I grew up around, purely for the fact that his intentions for me is that he wants the best for me. So he
yeah,
knows that he wants to correct my grammar and how I pronounce things, because he knows how I will be perceived by other people if I continue to either talk like that or decide to correct my grammar or how I say things. And it's interesting to me that my parents actively do that with me still. Well, not as much now, but there are obviously parents out there who've got these accents from different parts of the region who then pass it down to their kids,
yeah, yeah,
and their kids then have that accent. I know that I
yes,
speak in a very similar way to my parents, and I know most of the people around me speak in a very similar way to their parents. And
yes,
it's
yes,
interesting how that sort of nurture means that we've got this preset of that immediate, what's your social class, what's your upbringing, in how we
mm,
talk,
yeah. I've
sort of. And
yeah,
that's like the level after, what we look like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
your
it's what we
face,
sound like.
what you sound like. But like I do believe that the people that you are surrounded by really mold you into speaking in a way like your I mean your environment is a big factor in how you speak or how you come
Mm,
across. I think as well
yeah,
because I've been with people that are very sort of they speak in the best sort of way and eloquent and they don't use ums and ahs to people that use in it or like
yeah,
how much mate or something is a big gap. And of course
yeah,
I treat people all the same, but there's a big difference in people that say cloth or people that say cloth cloth. Like there's a way of
Cloth.
saying, yeah,
Yeah.
or stuff, or words like that. I find it very like interesting. But
Yeah.
I do notice that people treat me differently if I slow down my speech and I say every single word, because being, I don't know, it's not just about me being black. There's this thing that, okay, he's dark, he's black, he may not understand the words that I'm speaking to him right now.
Right.
So
Yeah.
sometimes certain people, they don't even know that they don't even know that they're doing it, that they are actually have to speak in a way that's more sort of in the East End. They actually changed their accent a bit, and
Mm,
that I find that very fascinating as well.
yeah. Well, it's like the idea of code switching
Yeah,
for black people in whatever environment you're in, whoever you're communicating with, you have to switch it up to be deemed as acceptable in that situation. So it's, when you meet your other half's parents for the first time, you're going to be very cordial and polite. I mean, it's not just a thing for ethnic minorities, but it's a necessary thing for ethnic minorities to, switch up how they talk with their family, to switch up how they talk with their peers, and then to switch up how they talk with employers or colleagues.
mm,
Because it's so important, because as you say, people will look at you first and decide what their preconceived notions are on how you look, and then it's really up to you on how you then change that perception when you start talking to them. So of
yeah.
course in certain situations you're going to choose to talk in a different way. I mean, when I'm on the phone to the job center, I sound very different to how I sound talking to my doctor. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But for
Okay.
me it
Wow.
isn't because it's an issue with my race, ethnicity. It's nothing to do with that. It's just for me and my intentions and for what I need
Yes.
as a person.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, I I couldn't imagine what it would be like to know that you have to switch up how you sound to to change how somebody values you as a
Yeah.
human. That really
Mm,
upsets me, thinking
I
about
know. I know.
how you have to deal with that on an everyday basis, on an every interaction basis,
Yeah.
having to
Yeah.
deal with how you are being valued.
Yeah.
But I guess you can talk about that in the context of being a life model as well.
Yeah.
How you're
In
being valued as a nude person.
how I'm being valued, I I sort of see myself sometimes as like, have you seen the film Gladiator? Gladiator with Russell Crowe. Well,
I,
it's quite an
I'm
old film now.
Is it
It's about
the one at the end where they
20.
have a big chariot race?
Yeah, but it's not. It's not the Ben Hur. It's another film called Gladiator.
Oh, I think I've only
That
seen the
one's
Ben
called
Hur
Ben.
one.
Yeah,
I
but it's it, it is sort of the same, but it's not, right.
Right.
So I sort of feel like I am a gladiator, and I have to
I already like this analogy.
perform. I perform for the kings and the queens, meaning meaning the kings and the queens are like the artists, and then
Right.
there's the other people, and then anytime like I do a good pose or good class, they go, "Well done, you now, Matthew. You are now get the chance to go and work and sit over here for the day or something." That's how I really see it like that sometimes. I really see it, and then because I'm naked. I'm like, okay, there's
Mm.
the chariot race, you know, you know, or something, and it just makes you think, what the fuck? Sometimes I'm thinking, Matthew, it's not like that, but it
Yeah.
is sometimes because it's like they just view it as like entertainment, like almost,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like life or death or something.
Uh,
It's like what the hell.
yeah.
And I do see the fun side in it, but sometimes there's this added thing about, okay, put on a show or something. I must do something that has not been done before or something like that.
Mm,
A lot of the time, But yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's really interesting.
It's very interesting. It's very
I'm see now what I'm imagining in my head is you doing life modeling poses as like the gladiator. Like that's what I've got in my head now. You're
glad
doing a session of like you get
and the
what
shield.
is it, the leather pointy skirt that they have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I posed at the Royal Academy schools to have their own life
Oh,
drawing class, and
yeah.
it's the whole back of the school just feels like I'm going into some arena or something, and there's
Yeah.
sculptures, and there's the big stage, and there's the curtains,
Yeah.
and all the artists have sat there from the years past, like uh, comfortable, and these people were sat down and draw. So in my head,
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm a gladiator, but it's not. I'm not. But it's
Yeah.
strange.
You're with the big boys.
Strange. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
strange. Yeah.
I,
So
yeah. That sense of, yeah, of being viewed, and I know what you mean. That's
yeah,
quite
it is. It
fun.
is.
Yeah.
It is, yeah, and it's so intimidating. Even artists get intimidated just by saying
Mm,
Royal Academy. They get intimidated. It
yeah.
scares them away. It
Yeah.
scares a lot of people away just on the actual space, the
Yeah.
actual location. I find that fascinating as well.
Yeah. I
Very
mean, I guess it is
fascinating.
intimidating to know that the amount of artists and, to just know the breadth of work that has been done in those walls and shown in those walls, I guess is quite intimidating, as well as the sort of the physical structure of it all, because all of these buildings are very grand, and they try and physically make you feel the grandeur that they want you to sort of see in the work, because they wouldn't
Yeah.
have sort of horribly done spaces if it was, you know if it was
No, no.
beautiful work, that they're gonna have a beautiful space to put it in.
Of course. Of
Pharaoh and
course.
ball walls and marble floors.
Marble floors. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, indeed. Indeed.
all of
Indeed.
the classic all of the classic grandeur signs,
The
pillars,
classic grandeur
loads of
signs,
plinths.
pillars, lots of
Yeah.
flimps.
Oh yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, that's amazing. Is there is there like a it's because that you like to touch on, like, and think about, you know about posing or things that that have happened that you don't like agree on, or with just being strangers, or
um I mean, with
just
life modeling again, what I've always said,
yeah,
there's always a risk, even with
yeah,
people that have been vetted through a process where, where they've worked with models before, so they have positive references. Because,
yeah.
again, you still have people's references, and they still might not turn out to actually be what you're expecting.
Yeah.
But no, it hasn't happened often whatsoever. Like, there have been a few moments where I felt uncomfortable, but it comes with the nature of the job. But there has
Uh,
been, one sort of standout moment of, this isn't okay, I need to get out.
oh, okay.
There's been one session where I was doing life casting,
Like,
and
okay.
they wanted a cast of neck to knee and then
Yes.
elbow. So knee to elbow to neck.
Yes.
So all of, very traditional. And there's
Yeah.
me going, okay, it's nothing. It's not like they just want to do my crotch or just want to get my chest, or, because those things are sort
Yeah.
of a bit,
Yeah.
you'd
Yeah.
look into
Yeah.
it a bit more.
Sure.
But,
Sure.
obviously there's, what's he called? There's a famous artist that did the Great Wall of Vaginas.
Yeah. Yeah. I
If
know
it's
that guy. Yeah.
if it's
Yeah. Yeah.
somebody, Jamie McCartney, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if
I
there's
know
somebody
it.
like that, then obviously that if he's put an advert out to say, yeah, I want to cast your vagina, then you're like, okay, well that's more legit than somebody out there saying,
Ah.
saying,
So did you
oh,
feel?
I want to cast your vagina. It's like, well, are you Jamie McCartney?
Oh, did you feel a bit
Wait, you look at
scared that?
somebody's
Oh, that they
work.
didn't know that they were. That they didn't know how to like apply it, the plaster and everything. So you were.
Well, no. So
Whoa.
I looked at this person's work,
Yeah.
and they just wanted this overall thing. They didn't know much about live casting, but
Whoa.
they hadn't done it just then before. So I said, well, I know how to do it. If I tell you what to buy, then it's very easy. I can just show you how to do it.
Yes. Yes.
Never do that. Never.
No.
Never
Oh
be
my
the
God.
model and the tutor. Never. You're not being paid as well for being the model and the tutor. You're just being
Okay.
paid for being the model. Be paid for
Yes.
either being the tutor or the model.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's another thing.
Yeah.
And so he got all of the stuff. I went round. I'd actually been to his studio before.
Okay.
And I felt comfortable.
Yes.
It was
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
But the way that he was applying the first layer of alginate, I was
Ooh.
like, this isn't right.
Seriously. Oh my God.
But I was like, I sort of feel uncomfortable, but
Did, did it get hot? It did get hot, isn't it? Hot. Did it get a bit hot under your
what?
skin?
Oh no! So no. It was fine to go on my skin because it
Yeah.
was. I was like, this is how you do it. It's plaster that gets really hot that you shouldn't put on your skin. You
Oh
can
my
put
God.
plaster bandage on your skin, things like that. I mean, you shouldn't
Yeah. Yeah.
really
Yeah.
put it
Yeah.
directly on, but
Yeah.
you it's if you submerge things in plaster, you will burn things off. Like you
Oh
will
my
get such bad
God.
burns. But anyway, so this guy, no, it was how he was putting it on.
How? Okay.
It was how he was putting it on.
Ah.
And concentrating a bit too much in areas that were like what you would call the erogenous zones. And
Ah.
it felt wrong. And he was taking too much time in putting it on places that, like, on private areas.
Yeah.
And it wasn't right, and I knew it wasn't right, so I just
What?
waited
What?
until I could get it off.
What did you do?
I
You
deliberately
just.
told him to do it in a way that it would go completely wrong, so it went completely wrong, and I got my money and got out of there.
Oh my God. That's
Because
scary.
it was to the point where I was like, I knew that I was being exploited, but I wanted
Yes.
to make sure. I kind of was like, okay, I feel uncomfortable, number one. Am I feeling uncomfortable? Because I'd feel uncomfortable if anybody was casting private areas.
Of course.
But
Oh my
there are
God.
certain circumstances, like if there was the life casting in the studio, say where I went to university, I've watched quite a few of the
Yeah.
sessions where they've done life casting. That's how I know how to do it. And it's
Yeah.
so void of anything sexual. It's so void of anything that would make the model feel uncomfortable. the person running the session is very attentive to the model, is very you know, can I move you here? Is this comfortable? Is this okay? You know, there's a
Yeah.
level of communication where, and there's no rubbing, there's no concentrating on one spot. It's just, this is how you apply this stuff. There's no,
Oh, okay, I
does
see.
that make sense? Because I
Yeah, it
really don't
does.
want to
It does.
say
No,
it
no,
because it
no,
makes,
no. It does make sense. Yeah, it
and
does.
it was just like, and then to the point that I knew that this wasn't, I wasn't being cast for the cast. That was when I was like, yeah, this is going to go wrong.
Oh my God.
So
Yeah.
I just was like, right, okay, now you do this, now you do that. And yeah, it went wrong. So I just then went, oh, well, it went wrong. You know, next time you've got to
Oh.
get more, you know, and then I was like, oh, okay, now you've got to buy this.
No, he's got to
Um,
spend even more money now. He's got to spend more money to get it. Yeah.
but anyway,
Y-
I left, I put it in that little box where everything goes that I don't want to remember. A couple of years later,
Wow.
I went, oh my goodness, that happened. And I had a proper moment. I was watching
Wow.
the
Wow.
Epstein documentary,
Yeah. Yes.
and
Yes.
I was with my housemate, and I grabbed her and I went, I've got to tell you something.
Seriously. Honestly.
Yeah,
It,
because I
it
put
was
it in a
that.
box. I put it in a
Seriously.
box because I forgot
But
about it.
but I mean, but the first time you were at his studio, did he let you see his other pieces that he had done? He
He
had
no,
done
but the
other
thing is,
pieces.
he hadn't done other body casts,
Yeah,
so he'd never done
he's
real
never
life.
done it before.
No, he'd never done
That's
body casts. He'd done other things and sculpture, but he'd never done body casts. So he was
yes, that
wanting to
is
learn.
crazy. I would, I wouldn't go with no way. You're
Yeah.
crazy.
So
I would never
you
go.
make mistakes
Yeah.
and you learn from them. That's all I could say
Wow.
is
But yeah, but did you feel unsafe as he was like taking his time? I guess you must have felt sort
I
of on sort
I
of like
felt
he
unsafe, but it was
um
sort of like, because this isn't
his
necessarily my own
intentions.
experience of being, well,
Yeah.
the thing is, you'll never know anyone's intentions, anyone's real true intentions, because they, you know, whatever they choose to say to you, you know, isn't necessarily the truth. That, you know, you'll never know somebody's true intentions. You know, they could choose to tell you, but you don't know if that's real or not. So going into this, I'm a combination of things that means that I can be more vulnerable to things, meaning I'm very trusting, I'm very naive when it
Yep.
comes to certain
Mm-hmm.
situations. So there are certain things that
Mm.
can mean that I'm more vulnerable in situations like that. And because this isn't the only time I've been, you know, molested or sexually harassed or whatever word you'd put to it, I have a bit of a victim complex, I guess it's called, where when I was in the
Mm.
situation, there's fight,
Yes.
flight, or freeze, and I
Yes.
freeze. So I froze in that situation and I just stopped. I stopped thinking. I just stopped and I just stood still. And then it was, right, what can I do after that situation, where it
Okay.
was, how can I resolve this as quickly as possible? How can I get out? You know, but making it reasonable so I don't aggravate this person. Because another big part
Yes.
of things is you don't want to cause a scene to make things become worse. This is why
Yeah. That's
women
perfect.
don't leave abusers a lot of the time, because they don't want to leave them, because they know that it would be horrific to leave someone who's
Yeah.
been abusing
Yes.
them, because they'll
Yeah.
lash out, they'll abuse
Of
you again.
of course. Yeah.
So there was a big part of trying to calculate how I'm going to get out of this situation the best
Yeah.
way possible. And it is just to end the session, just to try and make it seem as normal as possible. Some people might scream for the hills. Some people might be like, fuck
Yeah.
you, fuck this, pick up. But again, I'm in a vulnerable situation. My clothes aren't in this room. My clothes are in a different room. My belongings are in a different room. There are certain things that
Yes.
you have to weigh up where it's like,
Yes.
well, I know that my phone is close to me, but
Okay.
I still need my belongings. I still need my bag to get my car keys so I can get into my car. So I have to
Ah.
calculate these certain situations. It's situational
Yes.
awareness.
Yeah.
If I was in physical danger,
Yeah.
then obviously having my phone there, that's the important one. And noticing
Yes.
things in the room that could protect me. That's another
Wow.
story. But
Oh.
in that situation, that's unfortunately how I had to deal with that situation. And
Okay.
so I'm just hoping that it's a lesson to anyone out there that for
Please.
certain things, you've
Yes.
just got to remember certain things in place. Like if this person hasn't done life casting before, just don't do it. Don't be the first
He's
one.
never done it before, but that's insane. That's madness. I wouldn't
Mm,
ever. Of course, if you were like a person that was out there and, and he had done like a lot of people and 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 he is like he's done like a lot of people, that's sort of understandable, but the fact that he's turned to you for advice on how to do the plaster casting, because
yeah,
I've had my face cast before, also cast before, and she had done a few years of trying it out, and then I
yeah,
felt comfortable with her as well,
mm,
and in time I do my own drawings. um I make sure that they are comfortable as well, and certain people, they just like, they don't know how to. It's like a photographer not talking to you and and assuming that they are making you comfortable, but they're not.
mm.
It's, yeah, and how do you feel like about that, about people like him, or do you?
Well, I'll tell you another. It
Yeah,
was an interesting development because as I said, I'd been to his studio before. We'd
yeah,
had a session before.
yeah,
Um, we'd planned on, every say few weeks he would hire me to model for him.
yes.
So it wasn't like he was expecting after that for us to meet up again. And
Okay.
people will have their different opinions on whether I should have said something or not. I decided to just go, shoop, I'm going to sweep that one under the rug. But he emailed me
Yeah.
and said, oh, I haven't heard from you. Did I make you feel uncomfortable in any way? Blah, blah. And I immediately went, he knows what he did. He knows what he did. Who, after a supposedly successful session, I mean, it wasn't successful in that the cast didn't work,
Yeah.
but it's your first one. Like
Wow.
you work a bit, it's, and he knows that I was an experienced life model.
Yes.
So why would he ask if I was uncomfortable, or if he made me feel uncomfortable? No, nobody's asked me that. Nobody's had to ever ask me if I was
Wow.
uncomfortable or not,
And
because he knew what he was doing was wrong, and that because what he did meant that I never contacted him again. And the reason and why I didn't answer his email
yeah.
before that, was, oh, she must be feeling uncomfortable. You don't just assume that. the people that
No,
I
no,
don't
no,
respond
you don't.
to. So there have been artists that I've worked with who I've never who I've worked with, and if I haven't
Yeah,
responded to them for a good long time, they know that I'm sometimes busy. I don't get
yeah,
back to
yeah, of
people
course. Yeah,
sometimes. If it's nothing
yeah,
urgent, then I might
yeah,
put it off. And they're never like, oh, I've made you feel uncomfortable, or it's like, oh, I bet
yeah,
you've been busy with this and that.
yeah,
I'll hear from you soon.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there was and it was that email that sort of incensed me a little bit more, because I was like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
You
It's
already know the
like
answer. I don't even need to respond to
it's
you.
like it's like when they had when Weinstein said to, I think he said to like a lady, he said that, oh, I always touch people here. Like, that's not, it's not normal. I'm sorry, that's not normal. People don't just strip naked and stand there in front of, in the hotel suite. Or, and of course, it's the same, it's different people saying the same things,
Mm. Or
it's different
even,
people saying the
yeah,
same,
I mean, especially with the Weinstein example,
yeah,
he's chauvinistic enough to
yeah,
even put it out there, so that if whoever he was saying it to, you know, a lot of people in the industry knew that,
yeah,
they know
yeah.
the
Everybody
reputation of
knew.
these people.
Everybody
It's like Jimmy Savile.
knew.
Everyone
Yeah,
knew, but it's just in case you didn't
yeah.
know, I'm going to remind you that this is my power over you. Oh yeah, this is where I touch everyone. It's even more disgusting than being someone that sexually harasses people. But then it's another thing to be open about it, to say it to people.
Very
And
open
then it's
about
another
it.
thing to be like, oh, just in case you didn't know, this is what I'm expecting of you.
Aha.
Because that's basically what he's saying. He's saying, this is what, you know, if he says that to a woman, it's, this is what I'm expecting. I'm making a joke of it now, so you're more
Yeah,
complacent when I try it on with you later.
yeah. I
And
see. So
oh
do, 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 don't you think looking back that that artist was trying to get his way, or just to see how far he can try and what's it,
yeah,
what I
I
mean,
think it's
he's trying to,
definitely testing the waters.
yeah,
It's a
and the
classic sign
relation,
of, if you know that person isn't going to give themselves up, it's almost like a series of grooming. So you see what
yeah,
you can get away with, as far as you can get away with it.
yeah, yeah, because I know that certain models dates they sometimes date artists, yeah, and and it and it does happen, yeah, but there's the fine line whereby if someone is uncomfortable, you should stop and do not assume that,
Yeah.
oh, because that is a big thing. They
Mm.
certain artists don't like that, don't think about the other person,
Yeah.
or if someone is taking your photo, they just assume that they can take a photo from all the different angles, and they think it's fine, but for the
Mm.
subject it's not okay,
Mm.
because you're sort of invading their space, you're
Mm.
invading their space or their
I think again there's a few different things to unpack with that when it comes to
yeah,
artist and model relationships. With
yeah,
any job,
yeah,
there is a chance of you meeting somebody at your
mm,
job
yeah.
and striking up a relationship. I found my partner when I was working in security. I was working at a nightclub
Oh,
and he was a
yeah.
punter. So,
Oh,
there's always a chance of meeting people when you're at work. So there's that.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then there's the added, you're naked, and
Yeah.
if you're, if you're naked, and you're being drawn or sculpted or whatever, there's, we're human. We're human, and I
Yeah.
understand that there can be these levels of attraction,
Yes. Yeah.
backwards and
Yes.
forwards. So the artist could be attracted to whoever's posing, because you're seeing, again, that trigger in the brain says this
Yeah.
person's naked, and
Yes.
subconsciously it could
Yes.
turn on that, the switch of,
Yes.
nudity leads to sex, because that is an inbred
Inbred.
thing
Yeah.
in our, we're
In
animals
people.
in
Yeah.
our mind.
Yes.
And then, there's a thing of being a model and
Yeah.
being submissive to this is a construct, this isn't, you have to be submissive.
Yeah. I know. I
There's
know.
this
I know.
there's the nature of, that can be very romantic, and it always has been this sort of romantic artist muse.
It is. Yeah.
And you could be quite attracted to, say, a slightly older, more mature artist who is very maybe
Yeah.
philosophical, very
I
creative. They could have a lot of attributes that are
I had
attractive.
friends like that had dated artists and stuff. It's quite amazing to hear them talk about the relationships. And of course, I've also dated a model in the past as well, and that's very like interesting because seeing her come back from work from like an art school or an
Mm,
evening class is quite interesting. That the conversations that we had is, it's quite,
mm.
because
Well, what are your emotions
I'm similar
like?
in that
How
sense.
would your emotions
Huh?
be different, say, if she came back from, say, she was modeling at a school, or if, say, she was modeling at a male someone's private studio.
I would be aware that if it were like a man of a certain age or whatever, that most men are visual by nature,
Mm,
you know. So he would see something in her that he would like, and
mm,
and I would have to accept that
yeah,
in that situation.
yeah,
Whereby it goes past the line is whereby it's doing secret dates and stuff and meeting up for coffees and stuff.
yeah,
So there's almost like there's this line whereby letting the artist know that the person is in in a relationship like already
yeah.
with, with somebody
Mm,
else. Yeah,
yeah.
but
And
it's
that would be the case with any job, I guess, is that
yeah,
if, things were, if communication was being done outside of the job,
yeah,
then there's a level of, well, what communication do you have outside of it? And I think that would be the same in any job. If you're going out for coffee with somebody outside of any job, then it's not like you're cheating. It could be that, you genuinely are, you've found somebody who has very similar interests to you, and that's what you'd like to explore. So I
yeah.
guess it's all about the communication in the relationship.
It is very important, very
Mm.
important. So, and how do you like approach it then? Have you did the artist like affect you a lot then? I mean,
Um,
doing
well, the thing is, I put it in a box for so long, so I hadn't
yeah,
necessarily thought about it until recently. But I think it was one of those learning moments. It definitely
wow,
was. It was
wow,
definitely a learning moment. And that's all I really can do with it at the moment, because I'm dealing with other things. So I
yes,
think at the moment it is just a learning and hopefully a teaching moment. If anyone's listening to this that thinks, oh, that's useful to know because now I'll make these decisions,
yes, yeah,
then that, just one person doing that, would make me happy knowing that I told it, because it would then help someone. So that's
yes,
why I'm open about it now is that, you know, I just hope that, you know, I made some decisions that, you know, could have been made very differently, but I can't change them. So
Wow, wow, wow. And would you say that people should avoid doing sessions like that with people that are just starting to learn? I mean, like photography is another one where by now it's so easy for someone to get a camera for like £200 and start taking photos. Then
exactly.
yeah,
Again, it's
how do you
things
feel
like
about that?
portfolios. So
Yeah.
before I work with anyone, it's what's your portfolio like and what's your social media. So I if somebody turned around to me and said, "Oh, I'm not on social media," bullshit. I'm not going to work with you.
Everyone.
You either have social media and or a website. Like there's nobody out there without social media that is an you, okay, there might be an artist out there that doesn't have social media that needs a nude model, but unfortunately, sorry, I'm not going to work with you because I want to see that you're creating something, putting something out there. You're not hiding it, but I don't know. I want to see what work you're doing. I want to see to the standards you work at. I want to see the context of what your nude models are in. I want to see that you've worked with nude models before. And I mean, I went on a social distanced walk with a photographer the other day,
Yeah.
and because they wanted to they were a life model and they wanted to start their photography career because they had a medical diagnosis that meant that they couldn't successfully model anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
Not successfully model anymore. It meant that it was more difficult for them, so they wanted to try photography instead. So I said, yeah, let's go for a walk, because obviously we can do it socially distanced because I'm going to be standing over there and you're going to be standing over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we then we did that, and it was great. You know, I didn't get paid. It was just it was a courtesy thing because I'd worked with him before.
Oh,
So
okay.
there are
No
certain
problem.
situations where it's like I'm working with a photographer that is a brand new photographer,
Yeah.
but it's because I know that his portfolio before as a life model, we're in a public space, we're outside, I'm not taking my kit off. So there are certain situations that you've just got to sort of read the whole situation, which
Yeah.
I'm still
Yeah.
learning. Obviously,
Yeah. Oh,
I'm learning every time.
seriously,
Um,
that's good. That
but
is good.
one thing that I will
Yeah. Yeah.
say, if
What's that?
our this is our episode of advice to people, do's and
Yeah.
don'ts.
Please.
Security. So what is it called? Location services. If I'm ever
Location.
going to a new person or meeting somebody that I haven't worked with before, either my
Yeah.
housemate, my partner, or anyone in the area that I know that is a mate of mine, I'll send them my location.
Of course. Of course you should do that. Of
Yeah,
course you should.
but
Safety.
some people don't
Safety.
think that way though.
Oh my
Some
God.
people assume that because they've got their phone, they think they're safe.
No, no,
Yeah,
no.
it makes you a whole lot safer, but how are you going to be safe if people don't know where you are or know that you're gone? You know,
How do you feel about as well certain photographers that ask you to go abroad or to shoot in the middle of nowhere in like in the field or something? How do you? Is it a totally different thing then? How
work
do
with them
you?
beforehand.
Yeah,
Work with them beforehand.
yeah.
They aren't going to be a photographer that just goes, I, you know, I guess they're, I don't know how to formulate this answer. I would suggest that if it's something that you're not comfortable with or have done before,
Yeah.
don't do it. You know, it's if it's a photographer that you've been working with, that
Yep.
they're saying to you, oh, I have these plans to do this, to do that, great. They start showing you the preparations they've been making. You know, there's
Yeah.
different things that are sort of checklists that you
Yeah.
think of in your mind, like, okay, these are the proper things that you're doing. And, you know, if you say, oh, you know what, if we're going abroad for a few days,
Yeah.
oh, I might bring a friend with me so that we can go and explore this or that. And,
Yeah.
you know, they'll be like, well, yeah, of course, like, bring a friend. Obviously, you're not expecting the photographer to pay for your friend to come out as well.
Depends if
You know,
yeah.
obviously not, but there are certain markers and, you know, certain things that you'll mention or talk about. If I ever get a speck of doubt in the situation, pardon me,
Yeah.
you know, everyone that I've worked with might recognize that I've done this, but I don't mind because it's for my own safety. I'll
Okay.
say, oh, I'm meeting this person after. So there are
Ah.
certain things where I'm like, oh yeah, I've sent your address to my mate because I'm meeting them around the corner after because we're going to go for a walk.
Okay.
Things like that, even if that person has the slightest inkling in their mind of something that they're going to do out of malice, they will switch on to the fact that you're switched on.
Ah,
So they
yes.
will make more of a conscious decision not to. It's like if somebody wants to steal something, or somebody wants to do something out of malice, like go into a shop and steal something.
Yeah.
If they see
Yeah.
that there's a security member at the door that's attentive, and they
Yes.
see that, you know, they're way less likely to steal something. Whereas
Yes.
if they see that there's either no security guard or a security guard that doesn't care, they're
Yeah.
going to be way more likely to steal something,
Of
even though
course,
they've
yeah.
gone in with the same intentions.
Yeah. Is this i- is this for just being safe that you can leave safely, and or the fact that they don't have a chance to make a move or something, or to assume you're single, or to just feel safe to leave the location, or to leave the
I think
hmm?
it's a bit of everything.
Yeah,
I think,
that's a good way to put it,
yeah,
actually.
I think
Yeah.
it's a bit of everything, because whatever way you say it or do it, you know, there is no answer warranting of any disregard, or, you know, there's no answer that they can give you that's, oh, that no, that's negative. They, you know, they have to, you know, oh, that's fine. There's
Yeah,
no reason to give that that's not fine,
of course.
unless they're psycho, or unless
Yes.
they're like any of my crazy exes where
Crazy. Oh my
perfectly
god.
normal behavior wasn't okay.
Crazy. Okay.
So you know what I mean. It's like, well, the things that I'm saying and doing are perfectly reasonable. You've got to
Yeah.
understand that I'm doing it for my personal safety. So if they're not okay with it, not comfortable with it, something's wrong.
Wow.
Something's
That's
wrong. So if you want them to sign a release form, yeah, of course, I'll sign a release form for you. That's fine. If they're
yeah.
uncomfortable with it, no, you know, because there's no reason to be uncomfortable unless, you know, if there's any idea of malice or them doing anything wrong, then they're going to not be okay with it. It's like
Mm,
if police stopped you in your car, you're
yeah.
going to be like, oh yeah, officer, that, no, it's fine. You know, of course, if there are issues of, you know, race and stuff when you're being stopped, but if
Yeah.
you've done
Yeah.
nothing wrong, there's
Yeah.
no reason
No
to be like,
reason.
no, you're not allowed to search my boot, no, you're not allowed to have my wallet, no, there's no reason. So if you've done
Yes.
nothing wrong, you say, well, yeah,
Yeah.
of course, have a look, I've done nothing wrong.
Have a, okay. Okay. Of
So there's
course.
no reason
Because
Yeah.
yeah, because I'm so open as well, and so
Mm.
I tell people about my drawings. I show them my drawings. Some people go, "Oh, that's weird. Oh, look at that," and I just sometimes I just laugh because I just think, well, it's their like opinion. It's like film or art is subjective, isn't it? Subjective, and
Mm.
I've shown all my exes my drawings and stuff that I do, and some of them think, "Wow, that's amazing," and some think, "Oh,
Mm.
that's interesting," and I
Yeah.
find that quite, because I'm so like open and stuff about stuff
Yeah.
I do. I
Yeah.
think that is a good thing, I think, as well, and I
Absolutely.
think
Well,
it's
it's a good thing because it's authentic to you.
yes. I think that, yeah, because I don't take photos. I'm not into really taking photos because I like to do things in the moment.
Mm.
Because I know that's the only time I'm gonna get with this person. That's the only time. So I know I've got 2 hours, and that's it.
Mm.
No, that's it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think that's so pre- precious.
Yeah. So
Time and
if
stuff
there
as well.
was, because if there was a piece of advice that you were gonna give to life models, what would it be? Because I feel like I've given a
Advice.
lot of advice.
A lot of, yeah. I would just say is be open, but just be in a state that if you feel in any way unsafe, ask for him or, or her to really to speak to them on the phone.
Yeah.
You know, talk on the phone. Ask that you will g- 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 give his or her name to your other half or something, so they at least know who you're with on that day,
Mm.
and be just be cautious of of being aware of the space that you're in. So
Mm.
so if it's his house, be aware of how far it is to get to the station, the train station, or the main
Yeah.
or the main areas.
Mm.
Just be aware of your actual location, and don't get lost. Don't get lost because
Yeah.
uh, certain men, they change, and they want you in those situations to become t- 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 dependent on them,
Mm.
and in some ways, certain people may find it as being of letting someone be in control of you, essentially. You see,
Mm. When
so
that's not the
just
case.
yeah,
Yeah.
when that is not the case at all. So yeah, and always make sure that you
Are
say
in a position to be in control.
yeah, to be in control, or say stop. I don't feel comfortable here, or
Mm.
say things like explain more, or like if you don't understand something that he's saying or she's saying to you, uh, say it's things like explain more.
Mm.
Okay,
Mm.
I get this, but I think the main thing is seeing the body of work that he has done
Yeah.
or she has done is so
Yeah.
important. I mean, even on Instagram or something, or on a blog site or something that you can see their work. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be the best work out there, but I mean, seeing their work just shows that they are doing the actual work.
Yeah,
as well.
definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. I think
yeah,
that's really important. And especially, if they are genuine and they have your intentions in mind, then they're going to be okay with you wanting to explain something to them. They're going to be okay, talking to you about their intentions. They're going to be fine if you say, oh, actually, I feel a bit uncomfortable. They're going to work around it. They're going to be accommodating.
yeah.
If not, then that's the red flag.
I once knew like an artist that used to draw people or paint models in the nude. So he was nude and he would paint them, but I think there was a time he did it that it overstepped the actual mark, and that and the model got s- a bit scared. Not scared that
Mm,
at first he was fine, and then as time went on, he slowly started to push the mark and
mm,
make her feel uncomfortable and stuff,
mm,
or stuff like that as well.
yeah.
Yeah, that is not a good way. I don't know, because people are so interesting in that sense that they change as soon as you and him are in a room or in the studio. They
Mm,
they completely change. How do
mm.
you feel like about that? I mean, are you more fine now about it, or it takes you like a while to get comfortable with?
I think, yeah, once me and the artist start talking, um, or, and of course, there's a lot of conversation and talking beforehand,
Yeah,
then I mean, yeah, with anything, you then get a sense of the person. You get a sense of what they're prioritizing because of what they're telling you and what they're explaining to you and what they're talking about. So I think, yeah, you've just got to have a level of judgment of their mannerisms, how they talk, what they mean,
yeah,
rather than you just assuming what they're saying. You sort of fully understand what they mean and where they're coming from. So
yeah,
it's why am I here? Why am I doing this pose for you? What's your goals? What are your intentions? Those sorts of things. They're really important to know. So, noticing things like you say, like the demeanor changes are really important because it is very much within the context of the situation. Whereas, if somebody's in their studio, they're usually a lot more focused on work because that is the environment to be working in.
yeah.
Whereas if they're, say, working from their home, which, I've
Hmm.
modeled in people's houses before, often because they've got a life drawing class, them, their wife, their some friends, they've got a bottle of wine, and they're just having an evening of it. They're a lot more relaxed. They're in an environment that they're very familiar with. So there are different contexts and different sort of demeanors that you'd expect from these contexts. So it's just
Yeah,
being aware of that and really trusting your gut and your instinct as well,
the
because
in,
if your instinct's telling you something, then you should probably listen to it.
yeah, that's very
Mm.
important instinct. That's very
Mm.
important, actually, very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think it's a good thing to really just go on it instinct as well. Instinct is so key,
Yeah.
so key. Yeah, so
100%.
interesting as well. It's
Yeah.
been it's been 3 hours, isn't it? We've been talking, isn't it? It's a long time, isn't it?
Oh my
Time
goodness.
time just flies by, isn't it?
It really
Time just
does.
goes so fast,
It really does. It's
so
like a little
fast.
therapy session.
It is, it is, it is, it is, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Gosh.
So let's
Well, and I hope that people watching, I can't wait to hear people's feedback on where they take this advice and what they do with it as well. Kind of
of
exciting.
of course.
Yeah.
It is very exciting, actually. Very exciting. So
Mm.
hopefully, come next month, March or so, I can do some drawings of March, April time, when I think it's gonna ease down slowly, as they said in it, by
Yeah.
April time or something. Yeah,
Slowly we get back out there
slow.
and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's been interesting though, us talking as well about the different ideas and things that have happened in the past as well. Yeah,
Especially life models in lockdown as well, because it again
yeah.
we always touch on the fact that it is so unvirtually friendly.
It is. It is. It is.
But we've tried to make it work.
Of course.
We've
Of
tried
course.
to.
Yes. Yes. We do try to make it work all the time, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So I think that is a good thing. That's a good thing that we at least do something, I think, as well, in the time that we are not allowed to work in actual arts bases and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
very like interesting as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's lovely to talk to you again. Nice to see you.
Thank you. It's been ages, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's been a few
Last
weeks.
week was a bit of a blur, if I'm honest. So
Seriously,
well,
it was.
it was one of those weeks where I was having a lot of ups and downs. So I just
Okay.
powered through the week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. This week's a bit more of a
Oh,
concentrated week where I actually like have to get things done.
yeah.
I have to get all the
Oh.
things done that